In this video, we will show you how to replace your front strut on this Honda Accord. This is part of your front suspension and it's located inside of your front wheel well. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Safely raise and support the front of your vehicle so the wheels are off the ground. Once you've done that, continue on to removing all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts and then the wheel. We'll be making our way to where the strut connects onto this lower forked area, which leads down to that control arm. Use a 14mm to remove the pinch bolt. Give it a quick inspection and set it aside. The next thing you'll want to do is use a pry bar. We're going to come along the back side of the knuckle. Right where that pinch bolt was, you'll find that you have 2 ears. Try to get in between those 2 ears and gently separate them. Once you have it separated, use some penetrant in this area. Let's continue a little further down on that fork, where it connects to your lower control arm. You'll find that you have a 17mm headed bolt that comes through from the front, through the control arm, all the way along the backside of that strut area. Use a 17mm for both sides. Let's get this out of here. Now we'll remove the bolt by driving it out from the rear towards the front. A quick inspection and we'll set it aside. Now we can start driving the fork off of the bottom of the strut. There we are. Let's make our way up inside the engine compartment. You're going to be removing 5 mounting nuts. You'll find that you have 2 12mm nuts and 3 14mm nuts. Do not touch this center nut right here. Inspect the mounting hardware. As you remove it, replace it as necessary. There's that one. Reach down in here. Give that a wiggle and we can pull it down and out through the wheel well. Inside of the wheel well area, you might have to push down on the knuckle a little bit to gain access to be able to pull out that strut. We'll be pulling it down diagonally towards the rear. Once we have it down low enough, we can fully remove it. Now let's get this into the spring compressor. With the strut assembly inside of the spring compressor, you want to be extremely careful. Once you start compressing the spring to be able to remove the upper cap and eventually strut from inside of this unit, it will be under a lot of pressure. Now with that said, with it safely inside of the compressor, I'm going to continue on by compressing this spring a little bit so I can eventually make my way up here to this 14mm mounted nut. Once you have the spring compressed enough that you can maneuver the strut around, we'll continue on up at that top 14mm nut. While removing that, make sure you're holding on to the lower aspect of the strut so you can pull it out of there safely. If you find you're having a hard time removing the nut from the stud, if you were to look in the center of the stud, you'll find an area that you can use a 3/16 Allen head socket. That'll hold the stud free while you continue removing that nut. Let's hold on to that. Fully remove the mounting nut. Remove that washer. Now we'll pull the strut down and out of this. Let's continue on to removing the vibration dampener. And then down along the base of this, where the spring should go, you should also have a rubber buffer. Slide that out of there. Give that a quick inspection, you will be reusing that. And there it is, friends. Okay, friend, let's get ready to install our brand new strut. When we had removed the original strut, you remember that we took off the rubber dampener that goes down along the bottom base here. It can only fit on one way, so make sure you have it matched up perfectly. Now that we have that on there, let's continue on with our rubber bumper. We'll also make sure we have our washer up along the top here. Slide that right on over the shaft. Take this and bring it up, putting it in position. While we bring it up through the center here, you want to make sure that you align the lower aspect of your coil spring with this area on the strut, right where it drops down a little bit. Bring this up and through here. Try to come through the center up along the top there. Should be able to bring this up. Now before I go too much further along the top here, I just want to point out along the top, you will have an area on the rubber that shows exactly where that coil spring ended. Make sure that's aligned with the end of the coil spring during the installation process. Bring this around. Press that strut up and in. Continue along the top with your washer and your brand new nut. Once you've done that, we're going to continue on to tightening this. Use a 15mm to tighten the nut. If you find that the center shaft is spinning while doing so, you can hold the tip of it using a 1/4" wrench or a 6mm wrench. Confirm your spring is properly aligned along the top and at the bottom. Now we can release pressure from this. Hold the strut cap still. You can do that using a pry bar. We'll torque that center nut to 22 foot-pounds. Now we can remove this from the spring compressor. Let's get this back in the vehicle. Let's start bringing this up through the strut tower into the engine compartment. We'll start on those mounting nuts. Now we're only starting these on. We're not going to tighten them yet. Inside this area, you might find that you have to pull down on the lower control arm a little bit so you can align the fork with the lower aspect of the strut. Just wiggle this around as needed. Slide these two pieces together. Once it's aligned, go ahead and tap it into place. Start in your pinch bolt and torque it to 32 foot-pounds. Now let's continue on to the lower bolt. This one will go through the lower fork, through the lower control arm, and out through the backside. Once we've done that, we'll continue on with our 17mm nut, snug it up, and torque it to 47 foot-pounds. At this point, we'll continue on putting pressure underneath the lower control arm, being careful not to damage our lower ball joint stud. What we need to do is apply pressure in the upward manner so that it brings the vehicle into the original ride height position. We'll use our 17 millimeters to snug this bolt, and then we'll torque it to 47 foot-pounds. Remove the support from underneath your control arm. Reinstall your wheel, start on all the lug nuts, and then torque them to 80 foot-pounds. Now with the wheel safely on the ground, we'll torque each of these lug nuts in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Okay friend, we showed you how to install one of your front struts. The process will be the exact same thing for the other side of the vehicle. Once you've completed that, get yourself safely down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.